Good morning. Welcome to the Friday morning devotion, encouragement, and prayer time for ministry. My name is Tom Lemler. I'm a staff member of the Dear Christ in South Bend, Indiana, as well as the director of Impact Prayer. This morning, we began and as I spent time with God yesterday, kind of landed on another one of the devotional books that I've written to kind of work through that in these morning devotions. This one is called Serving God, Devotions for Active Worship. And the subtitle really wraps around the idea that it's our service, it's our actions that are an indication of our true worship of God. And so this was written, it's 13 weeks of daily devotions. And each week is wrapped around a different aspect of serving. And so this first week that we'll start today is focused on being called to serve, and kind of lays the groundwork for why are we serving anyhow, and who are we serving, and some things like that. And today's specific topic is serving because of God's calling. I suspect that most of us have people in our lives that can ask us to do things, and we do it for them, though we would probably hesitate and maybe even refuse to do the exact same things if someone else were to ask. We do it out of love. We do it out of respect. We do it out of obligation. We may have a variety of reasons, but if that person asks, we're going to do whatever we can within our power to accomplish it. And there are probably others in the other end of the spectrum that we refuse to do things just because they want it done. Now, we probably aren't nearly as likely to admit to that as we would be to the first, but when it comes to serving others, there are a lot of reasons that we could serve. There are probably a lot of reasons also why we should serve. But all of those kind of are overshadowed by what I believe is the primary reason, because God has called us to serve. The Bible says that we are to not use our freedom to indulge our sinful nature, but rather within this calling to freedom, we should serve one another in love. As we live life, it's important to keep in mind all of the time that God has called us to serve. That his instructions, his commands, his example through Jesus is one of service. A service to those who can't repay, service to those that may not deserve it, service to anyone in need. You see, when we keep that instruction from God in the forefront of our mind daily, it ought to change our reaction to those opportunities to serve. Sometimes the most difficult thing to get accomplished within any church gathering is, well, it's work. And it doesn't seem to matter a whole lot how difficult or how easy the job is. If it requires time, the list of volunteers is often rather small. I won't do it. I can't do it. I'm not available. I'm not interested. The list of excuses goes on and on. How many churches that, things have changed with COVID, and so we're not doing a lot of that interpersonal um, things where we're touching the same things all the time. But the churches that I've been a part of and have visited and taught at kind of say the same thing. How difficult it is just to get people willing to pass offering trays on a Sunday morning. In trays, pass whatever's needed. To greet, to do even the what would appear to be task involving little investment, let alone go into the mention of Sunday school teachers and children's care nursery workers and things that might take a little more effort. I still remember the first junior church lesson that I taught a lot of years ago. I was so nervous. I was terrified, and my personal design that's terrified of people didn't help that the fact that they were small. And I stumbled through it, and I thought to myself, that just did not go well. That is not my gifting. That is not my calling. But they asked me to do it again not too long later. And partly because I've always had a place in my heart for children. I love them. I kept agreeing to do it. I suppose in some small way that was a beginning point to what I'm doing now. But in reality, it was a response. It was a very hesitant response to God's calling to serve, but it was still a response. And I would encourage you, when you hear of a task needing done, and even if you simply start with the tasks that are needing done within your church congregation, within the building itself, within the context of the service, and instead of hearing it as a request from the preacher, as a request from the youth leader, or children's leader, or from an elder or a deacon or from some person, if you would stop long enough to hear it as a request from God, would your response be different? I would like to think that for those that are listening to this broadcast, that if you saw it and heard it as a request from God, is that you would say yes. And that is what it is. God has called each of us to serve. And sometimes it's serving in areas where we feel unqualified. We feel unprepared. We feel maybe even it's beneath us. And I'm not saying that every task is designed for every person or every person is designed for every task, but when we begin to say yes, when God calls us to serve, I believe that he changes us. He changes the task. He makes things fit better than we ever thought they could. And sometimes he's just looking for obedient servants. Jesus tells a story that the heart of it is about our need to be faithful in the little things. And he says, he who is faithful with a little will be entrusted with much. And sometimes I wonder, why don't I get asked to do the big things, the things that are noticeable, the things that I like? Well, one, it could be that no one knows that those are things you enjoy. But it very well could be that God is waiting until you're responsible and your response is showing faithfulness in the little things. You see, as we live life today, it's a Friday. I'm guessing that most of you listening probably won't be in a church building today. You probably won't be asked to pass offering trays today. You probably won't be asked to work in the nursery today. But you by someone to serve them. And they probably won't use those words. They may not use any words at all. They may just be presented to you as a need that they're not even sure how to word. It may just be someone that you see, and God himself is doing the calling through his spirit into your heart, into your mind to serve. You see, serving others does happen in a church service, in a church building, but for the most part, that's just practice. Because we serve because of God's calling to serve one another in love. And we ought to serve 7 days a week, wherever we are. It ought to be such a part of our nature that we say yes because we know God is the one asking. Would you spend some time today praying with me? Father, thank you. Thank you that you're a God that loves us. And you've created and designed us so that we can be a help and an encouragement to one another. And you've not only created us that way, but you've called us to serve one another in love. To worship you by the way we help others. Father, today as we live life, may we pay attention to the opportunities to serve. And when we see those opportunities, may we be still long enough to hear your voice, the voice of your spirit calling us to serve. And when we hear your spirit speak to us, when we recognize the need in front of us, may we not respond so much to the person presenting that need as much as we're responding to you with a solid yes. And may our willingness to serve others according to their need be such that Jesus is honored, that he is made known, that his example is followed. Father, as I pray for the children in our homes, our schools, our churches, our communities, I pray that we give them the value of serving, fellow siblings, of serving their parents, of serving within their church community, of serving their classmates, of serving their teachers, of being a helper wherever they are. And may they learn that not just because we tell them it's a good thing, but because they see us doing it. Father, as part of that serving others, may we be mindful of how we serve our children and how we serve the children around us. May we pay attention to their needs. And as a good parent does what they can to provide for the physical needs of their children and shelter and food, and may we pay attention to the spiritual needs, the emotional needs. May we notice what is going on in their life. May we serve them with stability, with hope, with forgiveness, with mercy. May in the midst of all of this, may your calling us to serve be etched firmly in our mind. And so whether the calling to serve is something that looks enjoyable to us, or it's something that appears to be so messy we would rather not do it, either like Peter would respond to Jesus in things that didn't seem to make sense, is, well, because you say so, I'll do it. May that become our response when your Spirit challenges us and motivates us and calls us to serve. Father, as I continue to pray for the nation that I live in, I pray that your children would learn not to focus on all of the wickedness and evil and things that could go wrong and might go wrong and sound like going to go wrong, and things they like and don't like, but would focus on serving one another, on being the light, the difference, on highlighting and sharing the good news rather than the bad news. Father, may we continually be the beacons of hope that you've called us and created us to be. May we serve our community, not just as we serve individuals, but as we lift up the light of Jesus, as we share good news, as we offer hope, as we offer forgiveness, as we offer reconciliation. May we do the hard things in life because we're being called by you to do them. May we do the unpleasant things because we're called by you to do them. May we do the easy things because we're called by you to do them. Father, for the times where we're not sure what to do, may we come to you in prayer and spend time in your word, and may we listen to your Spirit. May we find comfort and direction and guidance, all of the things that you've promised to give us. And may we take the things that we read in your word and that we hear, and may we do them. And may we take up the task of serving you through the way we serve others. Father, just as we look at this as a way to serve you, may our service to others be done so that Jesus is lifted up and so that many would be drawn to him. It's in his name that I pray. Amen. This has been the Friday morning devotion, encouragement, and prayer time from Impact Prayer Ministry. Thank you so much for joining me today. I do pray that your day is greatly blessed by God so that you can be a blessing to others. Have a great day.